Yo YouTube, this is my video for Monday the 10th of June, which is today. My van needs a service. It's making all sorts of flashing noises and sounds at me. It was booked in for the end of the month, but I'm going to have to put it in sooner than that. Anyway, for today I have got the stats as follows. Based on my mileage cost of 14.10 pence per mile, I have driven today 477 miles, 477, and I have worked for 13 hours and a quarter. I've earned from 3 CX jobs £330, 330, and on fuel I've spent £67 and 26 pence, so £67, and that means that post or after fuel is taken into account, my net earnings today are £263, which I'm really pleased about. And then I'll tell you how I did that. It's been a pretty good day, I would say. So this morning I didn't have anything booked in from last week, so my plan was to get up early, look for jobs, and sort of be the early bird that catches the job worm. So I didn't get a great night's sleep, I must say. I was awake, don't quite know what time, but it was about 6 o'clock-ish when I picked up my phone and had a look at jobs. And there was about 3 or 4 jobs already posted at that point from my home area, but they were all really for too late. They were sort of for midday, so 11 o'clock pickups, 10 o'clock pickup going to London, for example. I wasn't going to do that, so I hadn't missed anything that I was aware of at 6 o'clock. So I kept looking at the jobs, and I got a call for a job at 7:20, and it was a really good job up a bit. It was Sleaford to Redditch. The number of loaded miles was 111, and I bid £110, and that was for a medium wheelbase job. So I just want to talk about that job because when it popped up, I was still in bed at the time when it popped up on the CX, and there are about 4 factors that made it for me an absolutely ideal job, and I was pretty certain I was going to get this job. So I'll just, oh look, there's a fox. I will talk through them roughly the order that I saw them. So the job pops up, and it's popped up, there's like a whole list of jobs on my CX, and the first thing I see is collecting from Sleaford. So big tick there, it's not very far for me to go. So big tick. Second, it's going to Redditch. That's a good place to go to. It's in the West Midlands. It gets me a good start, a very good start for the day, close to where I live, to a good place to get another job. So second big tick. The number of miles, I just checked, it was 111. That's another big tick. It's not too short, and it's not too long. So it wasn't like I was going to Scotland, it wasn't like I was going to Cornwall, I wasn't going to London, so it wasn't that sort of length. But it also wasn't going to Grantham or Lincoln. So there's a decent amount of mileage there. So big tick. And the fourth big tick out of 5 is what time has it been picked up? And it was due to be picked up between 8:30 and 9:30. So it wasn't too late. I could have got there at 8:30, and then I could have made sure I had a pretty good start to my day. And then the last little big tick on my list was, what kind of van is it? It's a medium wheelbase van, and that was like perfect, because that means I'm guaranteed to fit it on my van because I've got a long wheelbase. But secondly, I can charge a bit more than a small van would cater for. So I went in basically £1 a mile for a pound per loaded mile. And I was pretty sure that because of my closeness, because of the time, I'd put the bid on. Put the bid on about 2 minutes, about a minute after it came on. It came on, and I looked at it, and then put a bid on. So it wasn't much delay. I thought there'd be very little competition for that job, and I was pretty close to it, and I put a pretty decent price on. And yet, within 2 minutes, I got a call, and I was offered that job. And so I had a bit of time then to get ready and to get myself. I left the house at 8 o'clock, just to have a leisurely 20-minute drive up to Sleaford. It wasn't really Sleaford, it was more the villages outside Sleaford. So, I think, as I've said, so it's 20 minutes away, it's 12 dead miles, and then I arrived on site. I've been there once before actually, so I arrived on site. It was just 3 boxes to put on my van, and the reason why it was a medium wheelbase van, not a small van, is that 2 of the boxes were quite tall, they're quite bulky, so I'm assuming they couldn't be laid down. They're probably about 1.2 metres high, I'm guessing, and so about 40 centimetres square. So 2 big boxes and 1 little box, so easy to handball on and off as well. So I was off site on my way towards Redditch at 8:35. I gave the shipper a quick call because the notes had said there were 4 boxes. I was only given 3, but they were fine with that. And then I was off. It was a really sunny day this morning. It has been a nice day all day, and a really good start to my day. So I had £110 in the bank pretty much. That's my first job of the day. So I got to Redditch, and I was offloaded and ready to look for another job by 11:05. And there were loads of jobs, all sort of Birmingham based, West Midlands based jobs. There was Leicester stuff. Leicester was about 45 minutes away. I couldn't really get there. I didn't really want to go that far. There was Coventry rugby jobs, Birmingham. I was looking for something as close as possible to where I was without waiting too long. I put on probably about 5 or 6 bids, and eventually I got one. I got the call at 11:15, so basically 10 minutes after I'd arrived, after I started looking. And it was a pickup from Rowley Regis going to Trowbridge near Bath. And it was a small van job. I was 22 miles away from the pickup, about 35 minutes. It wasn't actually ready until 11:40, so I had sort of, by the time I got there, they were only ready by about 10 minutes, so it was quite good. I was quite a good distance away, and so I bid £100 for 105 loaded miles small van job, and I got that. And I was quite pleased to get that because that's a decent amount of money. And the only kind of concern I had was it was going to end up in Trowbridge, but on the map that looked reasonably close to Bristol. And I thought, well, Bristol, I usually have quite a good look out of Bristol. And so I thought I'd give it a go, and I think I'd get another £100, and I would have been there for sort of early afternoon, so I felt that was a good risk to take. So I got myself to Rowley Regis, picked up one item. It was a industrial manufactured item, and that was going to a food manufacturing plant in Trowbridge, and they were waiting for it. By the time I got to the other end, so I left the site and I picked up at 11:55. So obviously I got the call at 11:15, driven 35 minutes. So I got on site around about 11:50, and 5 minutes to load up, and I was off. So it wasn't there very long. And I arrived at Trowbridge and was offloaded. I had to wait for a bit. I arrived at about 2:05, but I didn't get offloaded for about 10 minutes. So it was 15 minutes past 2 when I was offloaded, and I was looking for another job. This is where I got a bit more of a struggle. So Trowbridge was about half an hour from the outskirts of Bristol, or I suppose yeah. And it was also a similar distance, about 30 minutes, but a bit more mileage from Swindon. And I'm not a great fan of going to Swindon because I think there's lots of drivers there. Although today there wasn't. But I tend to favour Bristol because I've had good experiences there in the past. So I didn't hang around very long in Trowbridge. I made my way towards Bristol, bidding on jobs. There was a couple of jobs to come out from, I'm trying to think of the name of it. It was a BA postcode, BA4 I think it was, and a BA3 postcode, and a Bristol postcode. But they were all tended to go to London, which was not surprising. There was a really good job from Milksham, I think it's called, going to Peterborough. But that came up after I'd won a job, and I won a job. I got a call at 2:45. I was sort of driving at the time, bidding on work, sort of heading towards Bristol, and it was a call for a job to take a job from Radstock and go to Slough. It was for a long wheelbase van. I was around about 20 miles away from Radstock at my drop-off in Trowbridge, about 45 minutes. And by the time I had the call, I was 35 minutes away from Radstock because I'd driven a bit. Now I took the job, despite it going basically to London, because I felt that it was the last job of the day. It wasn't going to central London, it was going to Slough on the outskirts. And I felt that Slough gave me the opportunity to head north around the M25 to get home, after that job. So I wasn't expecting to get any more work, but I wanted a route home that was not going to cross London. So I put a bid out of £120, 120, for 103 loaded miles, and I got that job. I double checked quickly as I was on my way whether me doing that job allowed me to be able to dead mile it home from Slough and still make my target, and it did. So I was pleased to get that job. The journey to Radstock was along some country roads, but there was no issues. So I arrived at Radstock at 3:30, just before 3:30. I was loaded up with 4 trolleys, and then I was off site at 3:35. So they were very efficient. And then I was on my way to Slough, and it basically said it was going to be about 2.5 hours. So it was 103 miles and 2.5 hours. So it was mainly that slow because the bit from Radstock to the M4 was country lanes. That's about half the journey, and then the rest of it was the M4, which was quite quickly. So I did that job and made my way to Slough, got to the other end. I could not for the life of me find the goods in for the place. I had a number and a name of a company. I found the number unit, but the name wasn't there. But luckily there was a lady locking up the front door, and I asked her if it was the right place, and she said it was. She called the colleagues, told them I was here, and then sent me around, drove me around to the back of the building, which wasn't actually that obvious even when I was told the instructions. But I did get there within about 2 minutes, and I got the impression that they were waiting for me. I think the way that the lady described it, she said that the driver was lost and he's here now, and she was locking up. But I hadn't stopped on the way down from Radstock to Slough. I had come straight, direct, not even had a wee stop, which I needed, and it was, I perhaps could have gone a bit faster on the motorway, 10 miles an hour faster, but really I had trolleys on the back. I didn't want to affect the load, so I did it direct and straight away. And when I got offloaded, when I got there, they were expecting me to have 8 of these trolleys, and I said to them I had been told there's a second van coming, but I hadn't been I was the one that left first. So I left first, and there was another van after me at some point, continuing the other half of the load. So the guy was pleasant enough, but I just thought I'd ask him, well, what time were you expected to be here? And he said 5:30. So I was only half an hour later than he was expecting, so it wasn't that bad. But there's no way we could have got there by 5:30 from where we were. Pick up from 3:30 pick up in Bradstock. Anyway, I got that offloaded, and then I made my way away from the site, and that was just prior to we start this video. So now I'm taking a bit of a risk, as it were, and I'm trying to get home without too much delay. At the moment, there's no delay on my sat-nav. It's all green, the roads are all blue. So I'm hopeful that the M25, which I'm about to join now, is going to be clear all the way. I don't know if the M1 is going to be blocked, so I might have to go to the A1M, but so far it's looking good. So I gave him my stats at the start. My new target for this sort of period of time is £200 after fuel. So 263 after fuel is really good. I'm really pleased. 3 jobs, all over £100, and I'll get home tonight. I'm probably not going to be working much on Wednesday, so tomorrow's a full day. Oh yes, I have also got a job booked in for tomorrow morning. That's the next thing. So once I've got my job from Bradstock to Slough, I did get another call for another job that was offered to me, which I had to decline. But then my job was to find a job for the morning, and within about half an hour, one of my bids were successful. So I have got an early start tomorrow and one little job in. So we'll try and repeat today's success tomorrow. I'm going to finish the video in a moment, but one thing I was thinking about is a way of thinking about drivers on the CX. And it's just the way that I thought about it today. I thought that makes a lot of sense to me. And I was thinking about the idea of professionalism in drivers, and what does that mean, and from a shipper's point of view, how do you get that? And I think the way that I would look at it is like this. Every driver that is using the CX, or who just does this job as a self-employed driver, will have their own standards about what they expect to be correct or incorrect way of doing the job. And to some extent there's a kind of theme that runs through about being good customer service and being being good at communicating things. But at the end of the day, there's no regulations that mean you have to be a certain way. So from a shipper's point of view, if you put a job on the CX, you are relying on that person, that driver, doing the job for you how you want it to be done. And one way in which you can make that more likely to happen is to be really clear with your notes on the booking. And I quite like that from shippers. Many shippers are very strict with what they want. It's never really been a problem about what they've asked for. But the only thing I have a problem with the shippers is when they say an hour's free waiting time. I think that's unreasonable. And when they say they pay £12 per hour for waiting time or handballing, I think that's too low. But put that to one side. If a shipper is saying these are the dimensions of the load, this is the number of items we've got. If it's not correct, tell us before you leave the pickup site. And I like that. If it's saying in the notes, you must strap down our items, you must not co-load, you must inform us about any changes, I like that because it shows the shipper knows what they're talking about and knows what they expect. It's making it clear and transparent. And you don't have to do that, shipper, in a very arsey way. You can do it very nicely. You know, there are some people can word it in a way which, like, it's clear they're just frustrated and angry and saying it with a like gritted teeth. But some people say it with a bit of levity and a bit of kindness, and it's just about informing what they expect, their standards. So that should be just about communicating what they want. And I think that should be on the shipper to do that. But if they don't, you know, most drivers who are competent will know what to do. So you can, as a shipper, improve your chances of getting a good driver by telling the driver exactly what you want to do. And giving them good information about where to go, what to pick up. You know, putting in the name of the company and a contact number and a name if that's available is all very good. Putting in proper address, full address, proper postcode, all very good for both pick up and drop off. So there's a certain amount of information that the CX can be loaded with, which is helpful. So that's how I see the dynamic from the shipper side. But then once you've done that, the shipper's then employing temporarily, subcontracting out a job to a driver, and then they are relying on that driver to get to the right place, pick up the right load, take it to the right destination, drop it off without breaking it, on time and with politeness and courtesy to all of those involved. Now, most drivers, I would hope, would do that without having to be reminded or asked. But as I said at the start of this sort of conversation, all drivers have their own standards about what they think is right and wrong, and it's not sort of written in stone, but it's just, in my view, it's kind of common sense. So those drivers that plan their routes, and those drivers that can speak fluent English and can sort of converse with the shipper or the customer, there's going to be less issues with those drivers when things go wrong. A driver that will maintain his vehicle, gets it regularly serviced, looks after its vehicle, they're going to have less chance of it breaking down on a job and therefore be more reliable. There's lots of behaviours that the driver can do. Like if there is a delay, the driver should call the shipper and let them know. If there's a change in plans, call the shipper and let them know straight away. There's a lot of behaviours drivers can do that can mitigate something going wrong. But for most jobs, it's really simple. For most jobs, most drivers will get the job done in a way that is satisfactory to the shipper. But what the shipper is gambling on is not the most of the time when the job goes well, it's when it goes wrong, when something goes wrong. Is there traffic? Is there an accident? Is there I don't know, a spillage or something of the item before it's loaded or after it's loaded? Is there, does the driver get lost? Is the van breaking down? Is there loads of things that could go wrong with the delivery that either are the driver's responsibility or are not the driver's responsibility? And no matter what, a good driver would tell the shipper and get advice, or even a good driver would sort it out and then tell the shipper it's sorted out. But there'll be those drivers that can't or don't do that. You know, there are drivers that will go really cheap, regret they've gone cheap, and just hate doing the job because they're underpriced it, and they won't go that extra mile if things go wrong, and they won't sort of be polite or amenable to the shipper if they need to communicate with them. So all the shipper can do is, at the point of giving the job, is take a bit of a gamble that the driver they've got is going to be, you know, professional, and he's professional in the way they want to be professional. So what will happen is the job will happen, the driver will do the job, and either they'll be happy with the driver or they won't be happy with the driver. and you may have feedback to go on from previous jobs, in which case you can use it to help you make decisions as a shipper. But the point I'm trying to make, not very well here, is the success of a job is down to both the shipper's information and the driver's commitment to doing the job properly. And when things go wrong, that's when the driver earns their money. That's when a good driver really earns their money. Because they can smooth over things that go wrong, and they can, sometimes you can correct stuff that's gone wrong without even the shipper knowing. You're providing the item gets there on time, and it's not damaged. You don't need to tell the shipper if you've resolved it. Let's say, for example, there's an accident on the motorway, and I find a diversion that's going to take me the same amount of time to get there. What's the point of me telling the shipper that I've had to divert? It doesn't matter to them. I've resolved that problem for myself. So I think the shipper will, over time, do it. So once they've given a job to a driver, they then decide, was that job done to my standards? And if it was, that driver will have more chance of getting the job next time. And if it wasn't, they'll have little or no chance of getting a job from that shipper again next time, unless they're desperate. So if you multiply up all the jobs that happen on CX every day, and the number of drivers and shippers, what you end up getting, I think, is a kind of pattern developing where the better drivers tend to get the better jobs and more jobs and the offers of jobs and a better bit of pay over time. And I think that's what I think of being professionalism is. Professionalism is about doing the job day on day correctly and sorting out issues and giving what the shipper needs. But even the best drivers, and this is my point, this is how I started thinking about this. I thought, my thinking was, is it possible to say that no job from the best drivers will ever go wrong? And I thought, no, you can't. So if you've got a driver that you use every day and they've been brilliant and never let you down, it's not to say that one day they might not be able to do the job in the way you want because of factors that may be beyond their control. But if you know them well, you know that's the likely reason for the problem, not that they've chosen to behave in a way that's inappropriate. But if you have drivers you don't know very well, they could be choosing to co-load, and they could be choosing to take long breaks and not go diverted routes because they can't be bothered with doing it professionally. So I haven't really explained this very well, I appreciate. And I hope the general gist of what I'm saying makes some sense. In my head, I'm trying to explain that there's a correlation between how professional a driver behaves and how well the job is completed from the view of the shipper. But there'll always be something at some point when even the best drivers let the shipper down. But in that case, because there's a trust built up, you know it's not their fault. So if you are going to maintain your van, you might still get a nail in your tyre one day, and you haven't got time to get it changed or repair it for the particular job you're on. You might be late, for example, in that job. Now that's something I would say is not to do with the driver. Even if they may have checked their tyres, they may check it every trip. It might just happen unknown. So some things can be beyond the driver's control. On the converse, there are driver behaviours which are really appalling, dangerous and dishonest, and in that case the correlation will be the job is unlikely to go ahead successfully from a shipper's point of view. So the CX is kind of a marketplace where over time you get to know which drivers are which, but actually you might pick the wrong driver on any particular day and get a bad service. So I hope that makes a bit of sense to people. It's one of those days where I wish I'd scripted that a bit better, but I'm going to leave it there because it's been half an hour. So I hope that you are successful, however you choose to define that word for yourselves. Thank you very much for listening to my video. Until tomorrow, farewell, friends.